So hopefully everyone can see my screen. So we'll get started. Obviously, the recording has started, so we'll trim the first bit off. But first of all, I'd like to welcome you all here today. My name is Chris Jeffrey, and I'm the Chief Guru at Cyber Guru. With me today is Jesse, my business development guru, and also my business partner and wife, and Ryan Etteridge, the Chief Cyber. Sorry, my apologies, Ryan. I've nearly lost your title there. Chief Person in Cyber Cert, and we'll introduce ourselves very shortly. So if everyone's already here, get yourself comfortable and we'll get started. Okay. So we'll start recording now. Sorry, guys. So thanks everyone for being here. It's great to have you all here. Let's get started today. So first of all, a little bit of housekeeping. We are recording today's session. Copies of the recording will be made available on our website that you can access after today's session. We've turned off your cameras and microphones for the duration of the session. So if you have any questions, please type them into the chat window, which you can see on the top of your Teams toolbar. And if you've got any simple questions, please throw them through that. And at the end, we'll have an opportunity for Q&A as well. Because we have a small number today, we might open up the conversation throughout the session. We'll just see how Ryan's traveling through the session.
Yeah.
First of all, a little introduction on myself. As mentioned before, my name is Chris Jeffrey. Most of you know me as the Chief Guru of Cyber Guru. With myself here is Jesse Jeffrey, my business development guru, and Ryan from Cyber Cert. Firstly, Jess and I have been running Cyber Guru for 27 years. We'll be 28 years in July this year. And we're excited today to be able to present this with you and hopefully be able to provide some great value to our clients and prospects. Cyber Cert and SMB1001 are pretty new to the field of small business, but not new to cyber security. And Ryan will introduce a bit of that to us today. In our background, we've been doing this for a long time, as I've said, particularly in small and medium businesses. And it's great to see that we have such an ability for us to have cyber certification available for us to show value to our small and medium business clients, but also the small and medium clients to show to their supply chain and to their clients and customers as well. Ryan, as a seasoned, and I've lost my bio on you, Ryan, but I'll let Ryan actually apologize. I lost your bio because I've shared the wrong screen. Would you like to introduce yourself? My apologies.
I will. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, good to be here. Thank you for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be able to support our partners. So we have 250 partners with CyberCert, and Cyber Guru is really evangelizing this powerfully. So I both appreciate that, but I'm also very proud to be able to support you in that. So Ryan Ettridge is my name. I've been in cybersecurity for 20 years. 18 of those years was pretty well focused on enterprise. In fact, not pretty well. It was actually focused on enterprise. So I worked in RACQ for 6 or 7 years, Dimension Data in consulting, sales, practice management for 6 or 7 years, and then a PwC partner for 7 years running the Queensland cybersecurity team. And most of my work was advising enterprises on how to reduce their cyber risk from everywhere from the board perspective through to architecture, audit and compliance. And one of the things we never got to was the small business, because all of the new standards and legislation and regulations came in to help guide and enforce enterprises to pick up their game, actually, and close the cyber gap at the enterprise level. And man, that's not easy to do. It's a really big ship to steer, and a lot of enterprises are still going through the catch-up mode there. But what that meant was government had to put their effort, and regulators had to put their effort into making sure that there was a standard for enterprises to adhere to, and that was at a global level. 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't really the standard. Cyber was just exponentializing, and so organizations had to hurry up and catch up. But the SMB then was kind of left behind because it was perceived that the small business was a lower risk to the economy. However, small businesses are 97% of the economy. And the enterprise grade frameworks, they don't work for small businesses. It's like this giant square peg we try and smash into the SMB round hole. And it's not just a matter of reducing the number of things that need to be done for a small business from the enterprise thinking, because that thinking doesn't work. So I stepped into the small business space to take CyberCert and SMB1001 to the next level. And that is for us to be able to normalize SMB cybersecurity with the SMB at the center of that. Actually design a standard and an assurance program, a mechanism to be able to support the small and medium businesses through their cyber journey, which is a very different prioritization approach. It's a very different starting point and baseline. And the fundamental difference is small businesses don't have the resources that enterprises do, and they never will. And I'll talk more about that in a second. So 20 years in cybersecurity, the last shorter period focused on evangelizing and taking the small business cybersecurity movement to market. We're about to take that globally in 6 days' time. So I'll share more about that. But that's a short intro there, Chris.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Much appreciated. So as Ryan introduced, SMB1001 is becoming a framework that we'd like to see all small businesses do. And we'll add to that not-for-profits as well. So we have quite a number of not-for-profits in our environment. So, and some of them are represented here today. So grateful for your attendance, and think of this as also relevant to yourselves. SMB1001 is a multi-tiered cybersecurity certification. And we've done our own little visual on the side there, where you can go from basically bronze right through to diamond with the SMB1001 framework, and then progress yourselves through to the ISO 27001 if you choose to do that down the track. It's been tailored for both small, medium, and large size businesses, in our opinion, but small and medium businesses is where it probably sits the best, so we would say, Ryan. And it's industry standard, we believe, in the future. We've seen a lot of different sectors adopting cyber cert and SMB1001 as a cybersecurity framework across various industries, legal, insurance, and so on.
Yeah.
So we're going to see more of that. The links will be shared with you after this, but you encourage you to look at these links. Dynamic Standards International has a great page on there, as well as the cyber cert page we'll introduce shortly. As for ourselves, I said introduced ourselves a little bit before, but why we're doing this is probably one of the questions people get asked. Well, we've gone through the framework already, so we, so to speak, eat our own dog food. We attained our gold certification, and really it was to help solidify our commitment to delivering cybersecurity services to our clients, but also that we live and breathe the same compliance and requirements that yourselves as small business owners and directors of businesses might have to uncover in your own businesses in the future. Also, we're keen support of professionalism in the IT industry, and particularly improving cybersecurity postures for our clients, and being we are a gatekeeper and a custodian of our clients' data and their information. So ensuring they are protected and they have the comfort factor that we're doing our best interest to look after them in industry best practice. And obviously improving our own cybersecurity posture. We had pretty good cybersecurity posture, but it did give us an opportunity to confirm that and validate that through the SMB1001 Gold framework. So today, Ryan's going to lead us mainly through this presentation. We've got several topics he'll be taking us through. So there'll be time for Q&A at the end for long questions, but if there's any questions in the meantime, please do pop them into the chat and we'll try to answer them as we go along. Jess will be moderating the presentations a little bit this morning for us. And at the end, we'll have some next steps and some recommendations. So I think with that, I'll hand it over to you, Ryan.
Amazing. Thanks, Chris. Good.
I'm not sure if I need to stop sharing, but let me know if I need to stop sharing.
Yeah, stop sharing. That would be good.
That's cool. Thank you.
So if you have access to it, people on the call, just a show of hands, who is a small business and not a technology service provider, just click your raise hand. 1, 2. Yeah, and so others, are you 3? Are you a service provider then, technology service provider to the small businesses? Show of hands. Yeah, cool. Great. All right, so you'll have a mix of questions potentially, and I'll shape you can put your hands down there, and I'll shape the introduction based on that. But please just chuck the questions in. Let's make it interactive. We've got a good 40 minutes or so together now. So I'll give you the wordy intro, and then I want to share actually the platform itself that you would see, that you would drive your process through if you've come across it for the first time. if you've just come across it for the first time. So Chris and I and Jesse were talking yesterday, and one of the metaphors I use for small businesses and medium businesses is the small and medium business, our primary job is to do our business. It's not to become cybersecurity experts. Yeah, now, and this goes the same for most of practitioners, even in enterprises. The enterprises will have dedicated cybersecurity teams. Even the smaller end of enterprise still generally has a dedicated resource or a bunch of resources, and their job is to understand how technology and cybersecurity works. In the smaller business, you can put, unless you've got a question, you can put your hand down. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Jenny. So the smaller business's role is to run their business, and that can be the flower shop owner. Their job is to sell the best flowers, because my 3 daughters expect flowers for their birthdays now, even though they're very young, and it's expensive. And so if you pay good money, you want good flowers. If you go to the dentist, their job is to make sure that your teeth are healthy, and so on, right? You don't expect your dentist to be a cybersecurity expert. So we can't build standards and models and frameworks and instructions and resources, even though there's so many good ones out there. We can't expect the GP or the dentist to be able to understand and interpret what each of those manuals mean. And so the metaphor that I raised yesterday was, it's like being given the manual to fix your own washing machine. Everyone here, I'm sure, has interacted with a washing machine of some sort. If your washing machine breaks, it's not helpful to be given the manual to take it apart and try and fix it yourself. Yet that's the way enterprise standards are driven. And then you obviously can't take the ISO 27001 and other NIST and even Essential 8. You cannot take those instructions and give them to a small business and expect the small business to be able to understand them and apply them. So we need a way to take away the thinking and the pain and the effort from the small business owners and teams, so that they can focus on their job and not to know how cybersecurity works, but know that it's working in accordance with an industry standard, an internationally recognized standard, and even better, a certification that demonstrates and proves that you've actually implemented the controls so that your washing machine is certified that it's working to a certain level. Yeah, so then all you need to do as the business owner or the washing machine operator is actually wash the clothes, because you can expect that the service is actually delivering to the standard that you know is recognized by the industry. So that's what SMB1001 is designed for. So let me share my screen. Now, you don't need to understand, if you're the small business practitioners on the call here now, you don't need to understand any more about the standard than what I'm about to show you, just that it is an internationally recognized standard. Dynamic Standards International is like the ISO for small businesses. Yeah, the ISO has all different standards, cybersecurity, quality, etc. Some of those are actually applicable to small businesses, but definitely not 27001. It is designed for an enterprise. Governance, risk management, compliance, all of those components are actually really helpful, and I love the standard where it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense for the smaller businesses. It actually creates the opposite effect. It's too overwhelming, and it creates more risk than it's actually intended to solve for the small business. So SMB 1001 is the international standard. It's dynamic, which means it updates annually. So you, small business, and even managed service provider don't need to think about what's coming next. Of course, you provide your feedback if it's helpful, but it's updated annually because the threats and the risks and the things that you need to care about as a small business are moving all the time. We've got AI threats this year. If we're not dealing with cybersecurity this year, then the AI agentic cyber threats are really going to hurt the small business economy in the next 6 to 12 months, if not the next few seconds, because it's moving so fast. The humans are not even involved in the attacks anymore at that level. It is automated, and it has so much intelligence about you and your business that it can know when you're most vulnerable to do the attack. We have to be aware of that. So the dynamic nature of the standard is that it's updated annually. And even if there's some changes that need to happen in between, the major changes, then all of that gets fed back through to the steering committee, of which there's 25 global leading experts on that. The standard is tiered. Chris had them up here before. The standard has 5 tiers from tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, from bronze through to diamond. I'll show you those in a second. And really that helps address the needs of the flower shop owner through to the needs of the financial management broker, through to the needs of the technology specialist that is developing software for higher risk entities, or even the linen provider for the health care or aged care organization. So the different tiers are designed to help the small businesses at different maturity levels and different requirements actually actually have a standard and a certification that is applicable and appropriate and proportionate for their needs. It's designed based on the following criteria: what's called the Dynamic Standard International, or DSI, categorization matrix. Again, you don't need to understand this, but I want to show you this because it's what's built into which one's applicable to me as the small business. And what that means is, like Chris was saying before, what you as the managed service and technical security specialist need to actually achieve on behalf of your clients as well, because you don't want to be the weakest link in the chain. You can't have a lower cyber cert qualification to what your clients need, otherwise you become the vulnerability in that link. So for organizations that require very basic entry level, probably already doing the controls anyway, but you just need to make sure that they're working, this is bronze, where you're only dealing with kind of less sensitive information. You don't really have an availability requirement that you need to respond very quickly. We move up the levels. Silver pre-qualifies anyone with silver certification, pre-qualifies that small business for cyber insurance. I'll talk a little bit more about that soon. But there's 14 controls in CyberCert Silver, multi-factor authentication backups. I'll show you what they are in a second. And really, if you can demonstrate that you're doing the fundamental 14 controls, then your business pre-qualifies for cyber insurance. The biggest risk to a small business that's trying to grow is, yes, reputational. Yes, you might lose some data and secrets and whatever else. But if you get breached by ransomware, by any other cybersecurity incident, the average cost for the small business is around $50,000. That's a lot of money for a flower shop owner. That's a lot of money for a general practice. That's a lot of money for a small business that's trying to grow. And generally, not many small businesses are able to recover from that. So if you have cyber insurance that you know is able to protect you from those common things, knowing that you've done the minimum requirements that the cyber insurers expect, then you can sleep easy at night knowing that the financial risk has been managed as a result of a cyber breach. So that's the silver certification. Now, here's the cool one. As if that wasn't cool enough. Gold has all of the requirements in it for a small business to prepare themselves for the latest announcements in the Cybersecurity Act, which is ransomware reporting obligations and Australian Privacy Principle notifiable data breach. Yeah, readiness. So APP 11 and ransomware reporting obligations mean that you need to have the protections in place that allow you to be able to detect, respond, and recover in a way that meets the obligations of the acts. The acts don't specify how, except they expect that you capture certain things as a small business to be able to accurately report to government when you've been breached, what you've done about the breach, and then how you intend to recover and respond. Yeah. So that's gold. Look at these prices here, if you can see those. $95, $195, and $395 minus tax as a small business. Yeah. That cost is for you to be issued with the certification once you've achieved the requirements at each of the levels. Gold is 23 requirements. And yes, it gets a little bit more complicated, but they're designed specifically for the small business to be able to do. So this here is how the standard has been designed in terms of to what level you need to implement the controls. And then once you've done them, how you actually go about receiving the certification. Up to gold is director attested. So the entire design of this standard and certification process is to allow scale. There's 2 million small businesses, 2.4 or something in Australia now. 900,000 of them are at least active ABNs. So it's not possible to interact necessarily in depth with every SMB, nor do we want to overkill the small business, small and medium business. So up to gold, with the help of your technology specialist and security specialist, small businesses are able to attest to having done the 1423 controls up to gold. And once you're able to sign that off as the director, CyberCert will issue you with the certification. That certification then lasts for 12 months. I mentioned before the standard updates annually. So when you work with your partner monthly, quarterly, annually, etc., when you're ready to move to the next year's standard certification, or even if your business grows and your risk profile grows, you might move up to the necessary requirements for platinum or diamond. Diamond, for example, if you're a critical supplier to certain organizations and they can't replace you within 8 hours, then the controls within diamond will actually help you get there. Because that's a higher risk and requires a higher level of assurance, platinum and diamond have mini external audits. I say mini, it's relatively mini compared to your giant ISO audits and SOC 2 audits and those that require enterprise level sort of auditing. These are independently verified through CyberCert, and we have certified auditors that come in and do a $3,500 and a $6,000 audit, respectively, for platinum and diamond. So this is the fundamentals of SMB 1001. For service providers on the call, your job is to work out which level here is appropriate for you based on your client's needs, what you take to market for your clients. Yeah. In the case of CyberGuru, gold certified, of course, means that the clients on the call are able to be certification ready through the services offered by CyberGuru. CyberGuru guides you through the certification requirements for gold. When the director is ready to attest, it goes through the CyberCert platform, and CyberCert will issue you an internationally recognized certification. So with that, get your questions ready. I'm going to move into the CyberCert component now. So if you can imagine, this is the standard, the internationally recognized standard, the list of things that are required to do per the standard. That's not helpful on its own. It's only helpful when you pair it with the people that can support you to understand how the washing machine works, and that's the CyberCert partners, of which CyberGuru is the one. Here, if you were, okay, so why would I need this as a small business owner? Well, let's talk about the, where are we? Move that little sharing thing out of the way there. This is a resource here, cybercert.substack.com. Anyone can go, that's a public resource. We mentioned ransomware reporting obligations before. We mentioned Australian privacy principles. Where's APP 11? Somewhere in here, you can have a look at that. We mentioned the Australian privacy principles. Now, for small businesses, yes, there are criteria that determine whether this is applicable to you. Hold that thought. Whether this is applicable to you, right? The requirements for ransomware reporting obligations under the Cybersecurity Act 2024, $3 million in annual turnover. That's a good sized small business for sure. And or responsible entities for critical infrastructure, right? Now, just because you don't meet that criteria, is ransomware now not important to you? So ransomware is if you have been breached by an attacker, your devices and data have been encrypted, and now you're being asked to pay a ransom to unlock that data. Otherwise, they're either going to leak it, depending on the sensitivity of it, or they'll just keep it inaccessible. In that case, you've lost service continuity, you've lost your trade secrets, you've lost the things you care about, might be personal information. At this point, it's like, wow, who do I tell about this as a small business? Is it my customer data? Is it my family photos? Often, where you've got your personal information and your business information shared on the laptops that you use as a small business. That is still very common, even for the $10 million turnovers and others, of course, because you've got shared email systems and platforms and storage devices and so on. Yeah. So do we care? Yes, we still care about the fact that we can be breached by ransomware, and it could cripple my organization, and that's the $50,000 recovery time that we talked about. Yeah. So even though it's not a mandatory reporting obligation, if you don't meet this criteria, it's still obviously very important for you to be able to do that. Now, for the APP requirements, I've just brought up the actual rights and responsibilities of organization. This is the criteria for reporting mandatory data breaches, right? If you're in the health sector, and the health sector is not just the GP, it's this criteria here, a gym or a weight loss clinic. You're collecting personal information that's essentially more sensitive than what you would necessarily put on LinkedIn, for example. Yeah. A business that sells or purchases personal information. So that is a marketing agency, potentially. A lead generation agency, potentially. Yeah. So the mandatory data breach notifications are not just applicable to $3 million turnover, annual turnover, but there's some other requirements in here as well. Now, because you don't meet those requirements, maybe, do you care that you've lost personal information? Of course you do. You still care. So just because you don't necessarily meet the Cybersecurity Act and Australian Privacy Principle criteria, of course you still care about the continuity and quality of the services that you're delivering to your clients. So why would we want to do that? Yeah. So first time, so there's this motivation regardless of what size organization you are, because if you're invested in your small business, then of course you want it to be successful. Why would you do it? Of course you want it to be successful. Of course you don't want to be breached. You don't want the washing machine to blow up, right? You want to know that it's being done. But gold might not be for you for now. So here's how we find out. You remember that categorization matrix we had here? Well, here's your selector tool. It's like, I don't understand. Even that's too complicated because that's still washing machine manual. Well, here you go. Do you know your recommended level of certification? Absolutely no idea. Okay, well, how sensitive is the information your organization deals with? Well, some of our information is sensitive or personal. That's true. What level of access do your team members have to external systems? I think we've only got standard user access. Now, you can do this with your managed service provider. Your managed service provider can, of course, Cyber Guru can guide you through this on the call at the same time. How essential are your products or services? Essentially, can you be replaced within 30 days? Can you be replaced within 7 days? And is it important that you need to be able to respond within 7 days, 8 hours? Well, let's go with the 30-day thing. And does your organization require cyber insurance? The requirement for cyber insurance is your desire for that, unless there's an obligation for you to be able to do that, either through contractual obligation, and soon, potentially in the Cybersecurity Act, you may be required to have some level of cyber insurance to do business. And again, depending on the criteria, $3 million turnover, who knows? Yes, we want it anyway. Because if we get $50,000 popped, we want to make sure that at least that's covered because we've done our due diligence to be able to protect our systems to a certain level. Because you deal with personal information, you remember back here, the personal information is an immediate jump up to gold because that ensures that the controls that are in there are at least good enough to be able to protect the personal and sensitive information that you deal with. You go ahead, you purchase this here. Now, here's the cool thing about the standard. I said before, it's no good now. Cool, we've got access to this certification, is what we call a subscription. You've got a license. You don't get the certification for $395. You still have to do the stuff. It's not like buying a certification off Temu and you can put that on your website. You actually have to demonstrate that you've done it, and then the director attests to having done the controls. Let me show you the controls, yeah? They're actually called requirements officially under the SMB1001 terminology. So the requirements, let's say for gold. So we said, okay, gold seems a little bit too much. Let me have a look at that as the washing machine operator. Yeah. Install and look at control number 1 here. You must have a cyber guru of some sort. This is the power of this standard. This is ecosystem, community-centric, powered cybersecurity, not just a standard, a cyber assurance program. This control number 1 distributes the effort amongst the people who know what they're talking about so that you can focus on selling cool flowers, protecting the kids in your childcare centers, GPs, etc. So this is one of the most powerful controls in this cyber assurance program. Yeah. And then there's 23 of which that is one of them. Install and configure a firewall. Do you know what that means as a small business owner? Yeah, I think I've got no idea, right? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I'm not quite sure. Yeah. So these controls then at 14, this is what's different about this. Let's go for silver here. And they build progressively. Visitor registers, that's not in Essential 8. Policy and procedures to prevent invoice fraud, that's not in Essential 8. These controls are specifically designed for small businesses in mind, yeah? So even if you get, this is what CyberCert Silver is, SMB1001 Tier 2, the stuff that's required here is fundamental stuff. You would want to be doing them as if you got an ABN that's operating in any field, let alone personal information. As you go for personal and sensitive information, you can see that the controls really start to step up. Cybersecurity policy, incident response plan, physical document destruction. Yeah, again, they're not that difficult to do. But yes, you need to put some thought into them. And if you've never developed a cybersecurity policy, which doesn't have to be 15 pages long, then of course the control number 1 guidance with CyberGuru helping you is going to ensure that it's fit for purpose for your organization so that when you get ransomware breached, not if, but when you get ransomware breached, that you have a policy in place that says, hey, our staff didn't do the thing that they were supposed to do. That was our policy on sign up, staff member. Yeah. You intentionally didn't do that, or you accidentally, so, so who wears the responsibility and accountability for that thing? And it's not for blame, it's for assurance and protection. So that's why Gold really helps with ransomware reporting readiness, ransomware readiness and reporting, APP11 notifiable data breaches, because the controls in here activate or enable the delivery of those services. As you get to Platinum and Diamond, now we're starting to talk about a little bit more serious controls, but still fit for purpose for the small and medium business. And we're talking about controls here like digital trust program with your suppliers. Yeah, your supply chain, your supplier's supply chain. Yeah, who's the weakest link in terms of the vulnerabilities in your organization? Penetration, vulnerability scanning, etc. So you go through the controls. CyberGuru has helped you get to certification readiness at Gold. Now what happens? The process within the platform and through the process with CyberGuru is that the director is ready to attest your contracts are good. You know your roles and responsibilities. Who do I call when ransomware hits according to the incident response plan? I've decided that I want cyber insurance, even though it's not mandatory in this standard until we get to, where is Platinum? Insurance. 29. So the final control in Platinum here. And then of course that's a requirement again at Diamond, but it's not a requirement for Silver and Gold. But it pre-qualifies you for cyber insurance policy if you achieve Silver and above. So we've got all of that, and then we're like, okay, great. Now this is the cool thing. You get issued with an internationally recognized certification. Let's make sure you're active, proven. Registry says CyberGuru Pty Ltd is Gold certified. So for your small business, you get one of these. You get one of these badges and a certificate and all of the actual material that you can put on your website, on your practice window, wherever you need to be able to show and prove that you're doing what is required for a small business as recognized by insurers, as recognized by enterprises in their supply chains, superannuation organizations in Australia, regulated organizations, government-owned corporations and agencies are already recognizing this. Is it fully endorsed by the federal government? Not yet, but we hope in seconds and minutes that we'll get blessings and so on to say that this is actually a recommended pathway for small businesses in Australia, formally announced. Come on, government, show us what you got here. But we're going to talk about the Cyber Wardens collaboration that we have that's going to accelerate this pathway for you. So what this shows you, small businesses and technical service providers, is an actual internationally recognized cyber certification that is specifically designed for your small businesses. We have all the mappings to the Essential Eights. We have all the mappings to the technology companies. We have all the mappings. And if the insurers are recognizing this as the fundamental obligations for small businesses to be able to pre-qualify for that, then we are well on the way to recognition and something that's fit for purpose for you. So with that, we're at 11:39. I'm going to pause there. I know there's a couple of questions that have come through, but you can. What else is going to happen, small business and service providers and anyone else listening and watching this afterwards? There are 2,500 certification subscriptions in the market already. Okay, this is not a proof of concept anymore. The concept is well beyond that. This is actually now in scale up and exponentialization, not just across Australia and New Zealand, but international. We go live in Denver through the Pax8 marketplace in the next couple of weeks. The next week we fly. So what that means is the standard, the wave is already breaking. Enterprises are already recognizing this in their supply chains. When you get your certification, no more questions asked. You show the certification. In fact, you don't even need to show the certification. You point them to verify.cybercert.ai and they will look you up. So that is the movement we're driving together. 250 partners, of which CyberGuru is one of them. Thousands of partners expected in the next few months' time through Pax8 and other technology vendors and so on. What that means is if you get that certification now, or if you at least get started with that certification process now with CyberGuru and others, then you are already ready to demonstrate that to the enterprises as soon as they accept that. And here's another cool story. It's actually one of the ones in here. There's use cases in here for those that are superannuation companies somewhere. Anyway, maybe it's in here. Here we go. Have a look at this later on. I'm going to stop sharing. A friend of mine said, hey, Ryan, you remember that supply chain program you wrote in your PwC days for the superannuation fund? I said, yeah, it was good. Well, I'm tendering for a bit of business with that certification, with that superannuation organization. And the questionnaire is not fit for me. I said, I know that. He said, tell me about this CyberCert thing and the SMB1001 thing that you're doing. I said, well, it's, ISO and enterprise grade for enterprise, SMB1001 for everything else. He's like, okay, well, we're everything else. I said, okay, tell me about that. So we went through the CyberCert selector tool. We went through the questions, said, what sort of information do you deal with? Yes, I deal with personal information, but it's it's the people that work with me. I'm not actually taking the personal information from the superannuation organization. I said, good. Well, do you care about the personal information that you collect? Of course we do. Well, let's go with gold because gold is appropriate for your organization. And we want to demonstrate, as a $10 million annual recurring revenue organization that he is and is collecting a lot of personal information. So it's in his best interest to show the due diligence, of course. But the 23 controls fit for purpose for that organization, right? So empowering this small business to then take that level of confidence and assurance to the superannuation organization as part of the tendering process and say, look, we actually don't deal with any personal information or sensitive information from you, and you can replace our services within 30 days. So we're not actually a critical supplier to you. Now, of course, it was a significant size tender and it was important for him and his business to be able to win that. And it is important to their business that they actually bring his services in. So he was able to negotiate that with the superannuation organization. Say, look, this is the position that we're in. I am not going to answer the 14-page questionnaire that's appropriate for enterprises because it's not appropriate for me. And if I try and do that, A, I'm going to be lying, and B, it's going to break me. They said, good. They accepted gold. Gold is good enough. ISO, NIST, Essential 8 for all of the enterprise grade stuff, SMB 1001 certification, everywhere else. So, point of that story is us being able to articulate that as service providers, as SMBs, in this bottom-up way, let's say, is quite important to say that there is another way out there. But in some cases, it is still an education process that we all have to get behind. So with that, I'm out of breath. And I think we got some questions there, Jesse.
Thanks, Ryan. That's great. Jess, you want to go through the questions, please?
I do. I will start with Mark in a moment, but before we do that, you mentioned we had the Cybersecurity Act of 2024 that came into effect last week about the ransomware reporting obligations. Next week, we have the Privacy and Other Legislation Amendment Act 2024 coming into effect, which places additional requirements on those businesses with greater than 3 million turnover or that are, have personally identifiable information. It also gives individuals the right to sue, and there's no limit on the business size there. So it doesn't matter if you're turning over $1 or 3 million. If there's a serious invasion of privacy, then the individual has the right to sue. So perhaps you could explain where SMB1001 fits in terms of helping with those requirements there.
Yeah, well, so let's say there's a term which I only came across through cybersecurity, which is called non-repudiation, right? And that is the ability to demonstrate with confidence traceability of breaches and how you got that information and consent and so on. So if you have enough controls in place that you can demonstrate that you had acquired the information with consent and legally, that you're using the information with consent and legally, and that the breach that occurred was nothing to do with you, now you're in a position of non-repudiation. It can demonstrate, sorry, it's absolutely nothing to do with me. Where you can't prove that, now you're in a position of fighting, right? It's called, I forget what the term is, tort or something like that, T-O-R-T, where the owner of the personal information has the right to sue if there's an indication that that organization has misused or led to the breach of their personal information. So do you need to get gold to have this non-repudiation standpoint? Ideally, yes, but not necessarily. Silver would really get you to a point where you've got cyber insurance in place. You've demonstrated that you've done enough in terms of the systems and services that you operate on behalf of the personal information. But gold is the first level at this stage where information and data asset registers come in. Incident response capabilities come in. Awareness training. Now that's likely to move to a lower level, at least in an earlier fashion or a less comprehensive fashion at earlier stages. But gold is very comprehensive in terms of meeting the privacy obligations and ransomware reporting as well. So yes, the criteria, which is what we were alluding to at the beginning of the call, yes, it's important in terms of mandatory reporting obligations, but there are other drivers and motivations for wanting to protect your organization anyway. And the fact that SMB 1001 and Gold is so accessible to the small business, it's affordable, it's practical, it's certifiable. There really isn't any excuse for small businesses to at least aim for gold in the short term.
And so that's going to cover both the technical requirements and the operational requirements stated in the Act. That
well, without providing professional advice, because it's not in my remit as CyberCert,
sure.
And I'm not a consultant.
Sure.
And any of the articles you review have a disclaimer in there to say you need to seek your professional legal advice, but also your technical advice. It has the fundamentals in there for you to be able to do that. So on the Substack article, especially for ransomware reporting obligations, it says the sorts of things that you would need to have in place as part of your incident response practices. But CyberCert and SMB 1001 doesn't specifically tell you what you need to do for the Australian privacy principles, because it's an international standard. It's not prescriptive in that sense, but fundamentally it provides technical and operational procedures to at least enable that from gold and above.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have a question from Mark regarding the control for antivirus installed on all organisational devices. Does that include mobile phones?
So for specific technical questions, Dynamic Standards International is the authoritative source, and you go to registrar@dsi.org to get your official responses from that. What I will say is SMB 1001 is not scope based. it applies everywhere unless it's not applicable. So you need to demonstrate that the objectives of that control have been met in some way. If it's not possible to install those sorts of things on devices, then there may be an opportunity for not applicable. But if you want the official, I'm not going to respond specifically to the technical responses. I'm going to invite you to ask that question to registrar@dsi.org. That is the channel to get the official response as overseen by the steering committee.
Yep, I've just sent that via chat.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Chris. That's good. Yeah. Now, what I will also say is what happens is all of that data and questions from the field, the 2,500 SMBs moving through certification, the 250 partners, the inquiries, actually it goes through the steering committee's normalization of that. Is it not clear enough in the standard? Do we need to be a little bit more prescriptive? Do we need to provide guidelines? Do we need to provide other material on that? Can we provide example case studies of where this has been applied and not applied and still been able to meet the standard? So I do encourage as many questions as possible to go through that process because it helps them dynamically update and refine that standard. Good question. Others?
Okay. Any more questions?
Show of hands, how many people are ready to move through the, how many people are confident enough now that this is going to meet their cybersecurity obligations? Show of hands. Can't find the hand button. There's a few there. Yeah. Good. And with that, for those that are still either can't find the raise hand button or still have questions, bring the questions through. Yeah. Let's. This is 1000% community-based, ecosystem-based, and of course the questions or hesitation that may still exist. We need to understand those. We need to raise them, and we need to continue to bring those back to government. We need to move through the confusion or uncertainty about what it means to acquire a certification or adopt a standard that's relatively new. Fundamentally, most of the hesitation would come from, hey, when is government endorsed this? Wink, wink, government. When has government, state government, local government? Now, it is actually already endorsed by government agencies. They're already using it. Yeah. But is it on the Home Affairs website? No. Is it on the ASC website? It's not. However, let's talk about cyber wardens. Chris, I think, is a good segue.
Yep, great segue. Thanks, Ryan. Great. Sorry. Okay, rightio. Thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate all that information you're sharing with us there. So, as mentioned, Cyber Wardens is a program that's offered by the Australian government. There has been funding made available through the Cyber Wardens program and CyberCert for small businesses that are, I think, under 20 in size, I believe, Ryan. I think might be a slight criteria there to undertake a free cybersecurity awareness training for them themselves and their team.
Anyone can do it. It's available to anyone, actually.
Great, that's fantastic.
Yep.
So anyone, small businesses or otherwise, can access that free training. From that free training, that takes about 10 minutes, you'll be able to be eligible for a bronze certification subscription if you hold an ABN. And if you wish to, you can then avail yourself to a free upgrade to the silver certification subscription, provided that you have completed the criteria within 4 weeks of completion of the training. And we think this is a great idea to be able to uplift your cybersecurity just from bronze to silver straight away from the upshot, because it does give you those 14 key criteria to be able to start looking at cyber insurance, if that's something you're looking at, but even just for recognition of your business that you are following a good cybersecurity posture.
Yep.
So in order to do that, there's a link on our website, which we'll share with you shortly, to complete the Cyber Wardens training. Follow the instructions to complete the bronze certification subscription. And then when prompted, you can enter our business name and ABN to link us as your MSP partner. So what happens when you do that? We can help guide you through those steps in order to achieve your silver. And as I said, if activated and completed within 4 weeks, you'll be able to receive your subscription for silver. On our website, we'll contains that link to how to sign up for the Cyber Wardens program and the training there. So we have a new dedicated website for all things SMB1001 that we've launched today. So that can be found at our website at cyberguru.com.au. www.SMB1001. We have a little bit of time, so I can share the screen I was going to share with you. If it's going
and
to
as
let
you
me
do that,
yeah.
really what we've been able to do through that is completely remove the friction around the entry point. So as affordable as the certification subscription is, now that's not even the barrier. So certification subscriptions don't expire as well. Until you start your program, you got 12 months to complete them, but the certification subscriptions can be claimed, can be allocated. And if the program's not started, that you at least have some thinking time. Go ahead and do it. Just go get the training done. It's free. It's very helpful. And then claim your certification subscription. It's free. It's very helpful.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great way to start into cybersecurity and understanding what you need to do. So this is our website here. It's a newly launched there. From there, we'll link to the cyber awareness training, which you can complete. And we're also going to populate the website with blogs and other social posts, including this webinar, in the coming days and weeks ahead. So if you've got any questions, you're welcome to ask us after this session. We have a form directly ready for you to go to start asking your questions of us. And we encourage you to participate in getting this on the road. And from our knowledge at the moment, I believe, Ryan, the cyber awareness offer is for the end, up until the end of June at this stage. And
end of July. So July
end
31.
of July. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
I've just put that link into the chat if anyone's looking for the CyberGuru SMB1001 page. I also want to take the opportunity in terms of cyber insurance. One of the things that we have seen over a long time when clients have either applied for cyber insurance or they've shown us an application, that there has been an issue. Clients have filled it out. They don't know what they've got. And they've ticked yes to something where they've ticked no. By going through the certification process with SMB1001 and going through it with a provider, you can be gives you that peace of mind that you're answering those questions correctly, because having that that silver certification streamlines the process. Perhaps, Ryan, you can talk to that a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. No more technical questions asked. A little bit technical in terms of, do you deal with payment card information? What's the annual turnover that you have? And of course, the size of your organization, so that the broker and the insurer can accurately scope your policy offer. But there's no more questions asked in terms of what sort of firewalls do you have, and all of that's taken care of through the demonstration that you've been able to achieve silver, gold, platinum, etc. So that form is built into the CyberCert platform. Let me be very clear, CyberCert makes no return in money off any of these collaborations. This is an offer for you to be able to take that up and to streamline that. So if you decide to take up the insurance policy with the brokers and insurers that are built into the platform, that's completely up to you. But they're increasing number of insurers and brokers that recognize certification to make it easy for managed service providers and SMBs to be able to do that.
Thanks. Thanks, Ryan. I think we've got one final question there, if that's all right, please, Ryan. From Glenda, yeah. Could you please explain the difference between ISO 27001 and SMB 1001? Is there a quick explanation?
Yeah. So ISO 27001 doesn't guarantee security. Actually, let me be very clear about that. It's an information security management system, also known as governance, risk management, and compliance. It's a very, very powerful standard where you have the ability to assess risk and select the controls that are applicable to your organization yourself. So AKA, you need to have your own team that understands that, or you outsource that particular thinking to someone who knows how to assess the risks and controls that are appropriate for you. You can be ISO certification and still accept the risk. It doesn't mean you have met the security obligations for an SMB. It just means that you're okay with the risk level that the controls apply. Now, it's designed for an enterprise that has the resources, that has the ability to maintain all of the documentation and governance mechanisms and compliance mechanisms and risk management, risk registers and statements of applicability. You can shorten them down a little bit, but still someone has to maintain them. And again, it's like you've got your own outsourced or in-house washing machine expert that understands that, right? SMB 1001 has the list of controls that are specifically designed for small businesses. the risks have been considered, the threats have been considered, and these are the controls that generally are most applicable to small businesses. So when you go ahead and tick off the controls in gold for 23, now you're issued with a certification that says you've actually done them unless they're not applicable. So SMB1001 means you don't have to do the thinking. You just need to demonstrate that you've done the controls with the help of your partner as Control 1, and that certification demonstrates that you've been able to do that. So the certification is that you have the controls in place and they're working. ISO is that you have the information security management system in place and the management system is working.
That's right. Okay, great. Thank you. I think that's all our questions answered.
Great.
So thank you very much for everyone for your time today. We really appreciate your attendance and your interactivity with us today. If there's any feedback you might have, we'll soon be sending through a feedback form after today's session just to get your feel. And if there's any questions you might have afterwards that we might be able to post back to Ryan or answer ourselves, we'll be happy to do that. And as I mentioned at the beginning, a recording will be made available very shortly through our website, and we'll also send you a link.
Amazing.
Any questions after today, feel free to contact us in the normal way. I'll be available by phone, as you know, through our all methods, and also email and our website. But last of all, thank you so much, Ryan, for your time. It's been great to have you with us here today and support us. And we look forward to continuing the journey with you and our clients to improve their cybersecurity posture through SMB1001.
Thank you, Chris, Jesse, and everyone enjoying the call. Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. And yes, this is, I'm very proud to see how you're taking this forward. And the more we can all get behind this as an ecosystem, the better. So thank you. And I will see you online.
Nice. Thanks again.
Thanks, Ryan.